Hi, I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not worry about the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. In fact, if you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that tonight's show is called Business First. And that's because today there is a full moon at 10 degrees of Capricorn. And Capricorn rules the traditional 10th house of your career and your standing in the public eye. And so Capricorn rules time because its ruler is Saturn, and Saturn rules time. It also rules benefits earned the hard way over a long period of time. So Capricorn does rule pensions and retirement, and it rules administrative work. Capricorns are very thorough. They do not like to skip steps, and they really do like to persevere. And so they are very good at administrative work because they can set up things that are helpful rules and regulations and protocols to a large corporation or a government agency. And that's because that's what Capricorn rules as well. It also rules things handed down from one generation to the next, such as a person who starts a small company, and if that grows, they may want to pass it on to the next generation, and they can do that. And so Capricorn does rule things also that money cannot buy, such as honor and respect. Respect is particularly important to a Capricorn because they want to be taken very seriously, and it is a serious sign. So all of the earth signs do concentrate on reality. They're very good problem solvers, they're hard workers, and they believe in rewards earned by hard work or facing reality in a way that can be even somewhat grim at times. In other words, if it's business first right now, because the full moon and Pluto are both in Capricorn, it means that it doesn't have anything to do with popularity or people's feelings, but it has a lot to do with long-term security, making sure that people have jobs and that those jobs contribute to the well-being of the community or to civilization. And it simply means that if you work hard, you ought to be able to build up some savings or something that you can pass on to the next generation. And so business is really highlighted right now. And that may not make everyone happy. But before I get into what else is coming up, I really want to say thank you. Not only to the wonderful crew here on our show that work very hard every single week, but also to the many people who have written wonderful comments. I want to thank you for your generous thoughts, and I really want to thank you for your words of encouragement. They sort of keep me going, and so I'm very, very grateful for all of your kind words. And that is something that money can't buy, and that is why I treasure what you say so much. However, back to the show, that moon and Pluto in Capricorn today, under the full moon, are being opposed by the Sun and Mars in Cancer. Cancer rules our emotions, and Mars can certainly stir things up right now. And since the Sun and Moon are opposing each other, it can indicate that this may be a period of indecision or confusion. And since Mars and Pluto are opposing each other as well, and they are the rulers of Scorpio, it simply means there isn't enough money around. And one of the things this full moon designates is budget cuts. In other words, people are going to have to be more productive and more efficient because there might not be as much money to spend right now, and therefore they've got owners of businesses or people in government agencies have got to be more productive or more efficient right now, and that's because there just isn't enough money to go around. So there could be some mergers and acquisitions. There also could be some layoffs. And that is because it doesn't make any sense to have duplication of efforts. And so the most productive people will certainly be kept, but perhaps not everyone. And that can be surprising to people. But the reason why surprise is part of business first is because Uranus is in Aries and it is being squared by that full moon and Pluto in Capricorn, and it's also being squared by the Sun and Mars. Mars is the ruler of Aries. So some new beginning could look as if it's going to get off the ground, but it can be severely challenged right now, perhaps by budget constraints. And so we need to watch out for that. And since the moon rules women, this can be a time, since that moon is so close to Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto represents people very high in management, it can be that there can be a powerful woman right now somewhere who is insisting that we concentrate on business first. And it is because they're looking for long-term security, and there isn't any other way to get it except by rolling up your sleeves and working really hard. And that's the way people succeed. So that can be a real insistence right now, and it has nothing to do with feelings. This can make people very upset. Remember, Mars and Pluto are opposing each other. So what we have is a T-cross in cardinal signs. There are 5 planets there, and they are really not agreeing at all. So that is something that could create tension right now. The full moon also denotes a time when we may want to be sort of relaxing and celebrating, because after all, 4th of July is just 2 days away, and I do want to wish you a happy 4th of July. But we aren't going to be able to do that in a relaxed way, because there can be business conditions that can be somewhat volatile or upsetting, and we'll have to face that as well. So there can be 2 outcomes right now to an insistence on business first. One of the outcomes can be derived from the fact that the Sun and Mars in Cancer are being trined by Saturn in Scorpio and by Neptune in Pisces. There's a grand trine in water signs. Saturn in Scorpio would denote tighter budgets, or not enough money around, or problems with credit, debt, and taxes that have to be faced. But remember, it's getting backed up by that Sun and Mars in Cancer and by Neptune in Pisces. And so there are some people that can decide in a very practical way, all right, we may not like the fact that there are going to be tighter budgets or higher costs or bills or debts that have to be paid off, but really, if you want to make a dream come true and you are dedicated to that, you could still do it. It just means you'd have to do it on a smaller budget, or you'd have to take a little bit more time to achieve your dream. But that grand trine in water signs means that if you feel strongly about that and you're willing to work hard, you could still make it. The second outcome could be that people may want to decide, oh, the heck with all that hard work, I want to take a gamble on something. And they may decide to do that because Uranus in Aries is trining both Venus and Jupiter in Leo. In fact, Venus and Jupiter are at exactly the same degree today, the 22nd degree. 22 is a number that when you add the digits, 2 plus 2, they equal 4. An even number is reducing to another even number. That can indicate success. And so if you are willing to work hard, since all the even numbers are material numbers, you can do that in a way that does involve some sort of gamble, but you can feel awfully lucky right now because Leo is the sign of luck. So if you want to do things all your own way and you want to start off in a new direction, you could have a lot of backup from your friends right now, and you could feel so lucky that you want to take a gamble and go right ahead and do as you please. You may decide to do that. And maybe if you're taking a gamble, that means you wouldn't have to work too hard. You could just maybe get lucky right now. But that is not assured. And the full moon is not in a gambling sign. It is in a business sign, Capricorn. So not all the gambles are going to pay off right now. And there is the possibility that somebody who is feeling like taking a very big gamble could lose, because the emphasis is on doing things in a slow and methodical way in order to ensure long-term security and success. In other words, no overnight successes, but simply taking one persevering step at a time. And so there's 2 different ways of looking at it right now. I don't know which is your way, but there is actually going to end up being a time, since Saturn is in Scorpio, remember, and its rulers are opposing each other, that the bills have to be paid. and it's right now they have to be paid. And for that reason, a sacrifice is required. And Capricorn and its ruler, Saturn, do require sacrifice. And that is why if you're not willing to make a sacrifice, but you want to take a big gamble, you might lose big as well. And that is why it's far more practical right now just to roll up your sleeves and decide to work hard, because you can make a dream come true. It's just going to take more work. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, for you, I think that you can feel a little bit rebellious and a little bit lucky right now, because Uranus in your sign is being trined beautifully by both Venus and Jupiter, which are conjuncting at exactly the same degree, the 22nd degree. And so that power of that conjunction is trining the sun in your sign. Your sun sign right now. And Uranus is at 20 degrees. It's almost an exact trine. And so I think it might be you, Aries, that is deciding, oh, I want to do it my way. And I suggest you do that. And the reason why is you can be under a tremendous amount of pressure right now, and you may need to sort of get out of a tough situation, and I urge you to do that. And the reason why is those two planets in Leo are trining your sun, but that's not the problem. The problem is the sun and Mars in Cancer are squaring your sun, and the full moon and Pluto in Capricorn are squaring your sun. That's 4 planets, including the lights, and they are harshly aspecting your sun sign, Aries. Now is the time when you've got to make a move. And that is because there's too much pressure on you, and it's not at all favorable. And so I don't see a favorable outcome in you staying where you are, Aries. So if you want to make a move, you could get lucky with that. Go ahead and do it. Or there is the possibility in a work situation that budgets could get tighter, and if you have not been overly productive, there could be a layoff, and you don't want to be in that situation. And so for that reason, you really need to make a move and go in a new direction while you can get so much help from your friends. So this is a prime time to move on, Aries, and I wish you the best of luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is simply a time when you still need to be really cautious, but the full moon today in Capricorn, along with Pluto, both trine your sun sign, which is wonderful. That means your long-term security is somewhat assured right now, Taurus. I mean, it's in good shape, and it probably will stay that way as long as you're willing to face reality and work really hard. And your sign is the sign of the hard worker. So that is good, because I think you are going to need to roll up your sleeves, Taurus. And the reason why is you may have been overspending recently or been too extravagant on your loved ones or on something you love to do, because your own ruler, Venus, and Jupiter in Leo are squaring your sun, and Leo is the sign of extravagance, and also Saturn in Scorpio is opposing your sun, which means that you do have some lingering debt, or there could be higher taxes headed your way, and you are going to have to stop and pay those off. So there can be some budget cuts because you need to rid yourself of some bills right now. But I would do that, Taurus, because it's not your long-term security that's being threatened. It is the fact that, you know, short-term gratification is not going to get anybody anywhere right now. That full moon means we've got to look at the long haul. And it's looking pretty good for you, Taurus, as long as you don't overspend. But if you have been doing that, now you have to stop that and pay off your bills. Otherwise, debts could get a lot higher, and then they would sink you. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, Mercury is in your sign, and it is standing alone, but it is your ruler, Gemini. It's just not being fortified by any planets in Libra or in Aquarius. And so there can be a lot of talk, a lot of chatter. You could have all the right words. You could be full of good advice for everybody right now, but your words have nowhere to land. And that's too bad. So I wouldn't waste too much time talking right now, Gemini, because it isn't that people aren't listening, it's that they're sort of preoccupied with more realistic matters, like how to put food on the table. And for that reason, I think that you need to quiet down a little bit if you can, and think about your future instead. If you want to direct your thoughts and your efforts toward anything, it ought to be your own future. and any partners that you are interested in. But otherwise, I think you need to stay out of anybody else's business right now, because you may not have the kind of advice that can solve long-term problems, and that is what the full moon is all about, business first. And so this isn't a time to get chatty with people or conversational. You could also be in the kind of mood where you want to party a little bit right now, but there can be heavy business concerns that people have to face. And that is what the full moon is emphasizing right now. And that's why I suggest that you quiet down a little bit, Gemini, and just concentrate on your own future, particularly practical problems or financial problems that you can probably solve right now if you get some good advice from others. All right, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when, yes, you can be very stirred up, and that is because there can be a business decision based on reduced budgets that goes against you now. And the reason why is that the full moon and Pluto in Capricorn are opposing the Sun and Mars in your sign, and Uranus in Aries is squaring it. And so there can be some sort of sudden change, and that is due to tighter budgets. It can be that if you have not been particularly productive, sort of just going around and enjoying yourself on your job, other people can be coming in, and due to a change in management, with rules and regulations that are insisting on greater efficiency. And so there can be some reduction in jobs right now, and that would be to avoid duplication. In other words, you don't need two people doing the same thing. And so you might be somewhat surprised that somebody comes along and says, hey, you know, we need to reduce your hours, or we need to eliminate your position because the budget can't afford it anymore. Well, that could catch you by surprise, because remember, Mars is squaring your sun sign. And at the same time, there could be an element of danger somewhere in your life, Cancer, and you need to protect yourself against that. It would be something that would be coming at you very fast. And so that's why you need to be a little bit cautious. But remember, I said one of the reactions to an upset in business or in jobs could be that people come along and say, okay, but I still have a dream. If it's going to take longer and it's got to be done on a tighter budget, then fine, I'll just work harder. That could be your attitude, Cancer, so that could be all right with you. And that's because of the grand trine in water signs. So you can pick whether you want to go ahead and follow a dream just on a tighter budget and work harder right now, or if you want to just blow up and get mad at people. I don't think that's going to do you any good, Cancer, but you could feel like venting right now on somebody because Mars is in your sign and you could be easily angered. I would suggest you use that anger energy on your own behalf by solving some really good problems, or you could have been putting off some projects. Maybe you can use your anger energy to finish them instead. But you need to be really cautious about things coming at you too fast right now. And I urge you not to fly either, Cancer. So I hope you have a nice, quiet 4th of July. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is simply a time when I think you've got your mind on love, or entertainment, or sports, or children. And you could even feel like you want to take a lucky gamble. And that is because both Venus and Jupiter are at exactly the same degree in your sun sign, the 22nd degree, which reduces to 4, another even number. So you sure can be successful at something right now, Leo, and that is great. Those two planets are trining Uranus in Aries, and so you may decide that you've got something all together right now and you want to start something new. And you can also be somewhat convinced of your own popularity, which is true. You're very popular right now, Leo. However, Saturn in Scorpio is squaring your sun. And that simply means, since it is sextiling that full moon in Capricorn along with Pluto, that it is business first right now. And since Saturn in Scorpio, which is a fixed financial sign, denotes that there's not enough money around, or that bills have to be paid, or there could be a credit or a tax problem. And that simply means that something's got to get paid off right now, Leo. And instead of you taking on a new fresh gamble, maybe you're going to have to just simply concentrate on increasing your credit scores, or paying off back taxes, or getting rid of some debt or loans. And that is really what you should do, because that Saturn isn't going to go away. It's going to continue to square your sun sign and the good planets in your sun sign until something gets solved. So right now, it's business first, Leo. I don't think you've got your mind on that. You could have your mind on parties, and you probably are going to have a great 4th of July, but you still have to face reality. And I think that the reality is financial, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when that full moon in Capricorn, along with Pluto trining your sun, means that you are that your long-term security is looking just fine, and also that a powerful woman may insist on business first, may decide that there has to be a change in management and tighter budgets based on greater productivity right now. That is just the kind of thing you're made for, Virgo. So I think this full moon is going to do you a lot of good. The problem is that there's just a lot of chatter right now, and that's because Mercury, your own ruler, is in Gemini, and it is squaring your sun. Try not to get caught up in the chit-chat that's going on all around you, Virgo, because there can be a lot of talk, a lot of plans, a lot of meetings, and they're not going to land anywhere. And that is because that Mercury is not fortified by anything. But your sign is. It's fortified by the full moon and Pluto in Capricorn. So I hope you keep your nose to the grindstone and keep on working, particularly on long-term plans, because they are going to be extremely lucrative for you, not only in the long term, but as early as this fall when Jupiter comes into your sun sign. So I hope you continue working hard. The right people are really noticing. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? I mean a Libra? Well, Libra, this is a time when I think it's going to be real hard for you to compromise on anything because nobody else wants to. And that's because there are 5 planets in the cardinal signs, and they are all squaring or opposing your sign right now. So that full moon and Pluto in Capricorn were squaring your sign, which means that if there is a business decision, or there has to be tighter budgets or some sort of layoffs, it might affect you, Libra. And also the Sun and Mars in Cancer are squaring your sun sign, and that means that either your home life or a real estate matter can be contentious at the moment. Somebody else can be a little bit mad at somebody, maybe not at you, but at somebody else. So it's going to be pretty hard to work out a compromise or any kind of peace under those circumstances. I don't think that'll work. And Uranus in Aries is opposing your sun sign, which means that somebody is going to want to make some brilliant new beginning because they want to have everything all their own way, and they're feeling real lucky, like they can get it. I think that you should just stay in wherever you are right now, Libra, and remember that, you know, not everyone's going to get their way. In fact, it is doubtful that anyone will right now, because lucky gambles are not what it's all about. It's working hard right now. So I think you just better try not to please too many people, because they don't want to be pleased right now, Libra, so don't waste your time on that. Instead, Mercury in Gemini is trining your sun, which means you may be able to take a short trip, or you may be able to talk to people who are willing to negotiate something, at least on a part-time basis, and that could be pretty interesting to you. So you should look for something new, but not a gambling type of thing, something where you're just trying something out. That could work for you instead. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is simply a time when I think that you are going to be deciding that, yes, it is business first. You have Saturn in your sign, and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Remember, the full moon and Pluto, your own ruler, are conjuncting in Capricorn, and they are sextiling your sun where you have Saturn. And that Saturn is being trined by the Sun and Mars in Cancer, and also by Neptune in Pisces. So you may be in an ideal frame of mind to go ahead and make sure that your long-term security is well taken care of, which I think it is. And I think it's in such good shape that you may decide to go ahead and make a dream come true. And even if it is on a smaller budget and you have to take a little bit more time, I think that you're more than willing to do that, Scorpio. So any kind of a business decision that is made is probably going to benefit you. And it will be based on the truth of business matters. In other words, it could involve accounting, and that means that the figures have to add up, or it could involve accountability. In other words, some sort of work record or performance record that can be very good for you, Scorpio. In other words, it can verify that you have been a really hard worker for a long time. So I think if there is new management, they are really going to like you and probably ask for your advice, and they will certainly rely on you as well. So this is a good full moon for you. You will benefit. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is simply a time when I think that you're probably going to want to join those people that want to take some sort of lucky chance or gamble right now on something new. You might want to decide to travel or to join up with people who just want to have everything their own way, and they're being backed up by favorable reviews or people that are quite popular that are willing to jump in and help them. So that would be good for you, Sagittarius. But on the other hand, you could be confused by the fact that Mercury in Gemini is opposing your sun. So there can be a lot of talk, a lot of hype right now going on, and you may not actually know who to believe because those words have nowhere to land at the moment. They're not going to get into a concrete plan of any kind. So instead, with the full moon right ahead of your sun sign, you're going to have to concentrate on reality and business first. I don't think you want to do that right now, but you'll have to, Sagittarius, and that's because there is some lingering debt behind the scenes that will not go away unless you work on it harder, so I think that's what you're going to have to do. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, that full moon is in your sun sign along with Pluto there, and that simply means that even though it's coming up, I get some pretty hefty planets. The Sun and Mars in Cancer are opposing it, and Uranus is squaring it. I think that despite the troubles you may be facing from other people who can be very volatile emotionally, or who can be a little eccentric and just sort of want to take off right now, I think instead you are looking at your long-term security and you're deciding that business first is a good idea. So mind your own business, Capricorn, and stick to a plan that you have that can pay off in the long term. And try to tune out anybody who's getting too upset right now, because first of all, it's their problem, not yours, and I don't think you can solve other people's problems right now. And secondly, there can be an element of surprise in your life or some sort of upset, and that's why I advise you to stay calm and don't move around very much. And that way you won't have too much change right now, and you will be able to absorb some sort of shock if there is one. So I think that you are in a powerful position. It's just that I would be careful about exerting that power right now. Maybe it's better that you just know you're powerful without advertising it to the world at the moment. So try to have a little humility, Capricorn, because you wouldn't want to get hurt, and there are volatile people around right now. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, that Mercury in Gemini is trining your sun, which means there can be a lot of talk in the air, a lot of plans, and you can be open to anything right now, which is great. But that full moon in Capricorn was right behind your sun sign, Aquarius, and that simply means it's business first. And there's a lot of light in the background of your life because the moon was there along with Pluto. And that means somebody may be reviewing your work record. They may be reviewing your credentials and wanting to see if you have skipped steps or not. In other words, if you need a better certification for your job, you will have to probably get it. Or if you have a work record that is a little bit spotty or inconsistent, that too will have to be dealt with, Aquarius. So I think that something good is leaving you, and that is because both Venus and Jupiter are opposing your sun sign, and Saturn is squaring it. So I think you may have to live on a tighter budget, but you might like the freedom that that gives you. And so, you know, money isn't everything, Aquarius, and this can be a time when you are going to have to slow down, but you might not mind that. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is a time when I think that you really benefit from new management or people coming in who are insisting on being more productive and more efficient. And that's because that full moon and Pluto in Capricorn were sextiling your sun where you have Neptune. Neptune is very well fortified right now. You have the Sun and Mars in Cancer trining your Sun, and Saturn in Scorpio also trining your Sun. So if somebody says business first, get better training, or work hard on something, you may choose to work on something that has to do with a community or volunteer effort. And that is because Capricorn does rule the community where the full moon was. And so if you go in that direction, I think that could make you happy, Pisces, because you have a charitable nature. And that is why the world can always use good volunteers. So I hope you make time for that. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show anytime you want by subscribing to it on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.